Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Buzz live event. BUZZ.travel, the social media network for travel professionals, provides you with more interesting information today. In today's event, we're talking to Sjannie Hulsman Louwers, founder of East Guides West. Sorry for this mistake. She will give you 5 tips to improve the feedback loop of your tour reviews. Welcome, Sjannie, and it's great to have you here.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Perfect. Thank you very much for being here and giving me the chance to speak about East Guides West.
That's great. We are looking forward to very interesting information you might give us. Maybe you would like to introduce yourself and your company a bit, and then I think we can go right into the topic.
Okay. Well, my name is Sjannie Hulsman Louwers. I'm going by Sjannie Hulsman normally. And I'm from the Netherlands. I have based together with Barnaby Davis from England, East Guides West, about 4 years ago. And we started East Guides West because 7 or so years ago, we were doing a training on the ITMI, International Tour Management Institute of San Francisco. And we found immediately, like, why do we need to fly all over the world to do this course? It's very expensive. And we thought there's so many tour guides out there that would need or want or love to have a course. Why don't we bring it to them? And that's how we started. And well, I just give you a very little bit of my background. I have been in tourism my entire life, in service industry, and for a long time also in the consulting on service excellence in high-end hotels. And so I combine the jobs. Of course, now one part of the job fell apart because I'm a cruise director on European rivers, which
Of
is
course,
now,
yeah, understandable.
it all went down. But that gives us also, Barnaby and Misha in Uzbekistan, gives us a very high up for the time to invest in East Guides West. And we are training tour guides on the Silk Road in undervalued, underdeveloped, and underrated destinations. So that's everything actually outside US, UA, more or less. We can almost say rest of world. That's what we do. Then we connect the tour professionals, the tour operators, with the tour guides at location. So we have inbound, outbound tour operators and tour guides. And we are developing a online job market, which is called Word of Mouth. At the moment, that's non-existent. But we also consult on tour development, and that is something that we have many requests for right now, because people see, oh, we have to change our tour products. And we were already going in sustainability, small groups, and deeper interaction with local communities. So this is actually for us a fabulous moment, if we can say it like this, to further develop that, because people realize this is the way to go. And it was a trend already before Corona, and it's going there.
Yeah.
So this is
forward. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is more or less what we do.
Great.
And the reason for the topic of today is, well, I wrote it here for those of you who can read it: 5 tips to improve your feedback loop for tour reviews. We found very, very often that tour guides and also tour operators are disappointed a little bit because of how tours are delivered. And then everybody says, yeah, you have to get great reviews. Reviews are the ratings that you can have. But we also find that there's many mistakes, or if that's the right word, maybe it's also unknowingly, that it's not always communicating in the right way. And I think with the time at hand that we have, we think that review-based training is a helpful tool to get people there where the tour operator wants them, or where the tour product should go.
Okay, that sounds very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And now, when you talk about the review team in the
Mm-hmm.
end, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
of course, it needs to be people doing that.
Yeah.
What do you think? Who needs to be in there, and why?
Yeah, actually, the review team, we think it's very important to have a review team because mostly the tour operator develops, has a business development department. They travel around the world, they design a product, and then people travel there based on the promise.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing they have is expectations. They want to have a fabulous vacation, and that's the promise that the tour operator makes.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that buy this tour, whether they buy it online or with a very trusted tour operator, they have a certain perception, and they trust the tour operator, and the tour guide is actually the one who has to really interact with the guests.
Mm-hmm.
If you only have the business development and the sales or marketing team of the tour operator, you're missing out a lot of information, because the reviews that guests fill out online are very often just giving either very high wow exclamations or bad ones. The bad ones are very often taken out.
Mm-hmm.
And so on a review team, I think the ones at location need to be there. So I would say definitely 2 high performing tour guides who run that tour,
Mm-hmm.
that do that tour already for a long time.
Yeah.
Then of course the business development person who's in charge for that tour and that area. One of these sales and marketing staff persons, so they understand what is happening on site while they think theoretically. A customer service person who is dealing with the sales on the telephone, or when people have questions, so that they know, okay, these are the questions coming out. They can share a lot, like, but
Mm-hmm.
people really ask this. And if possible, and I would definitely advise that, invite 1 or 2 of your most important guests, because with the guest telling you, but this is what I read, this is the way I interpret this whole tour, this
Mm-hmm.
is what I got, so there is a mismatch here or there, then you can really see, like, okay, everybody involved
Mm-hmm.
is in the feedback loop, is in the review team, and then they can work together. I give you an example. For example, if you have an itinerary, do you have some water?
Yeah, I got. It's
Otherwise,
really
I give you some.
at least virtually.
And no, if sometimes you have people, they say, like, okay, you have a tour, it's going there, then you go to drive 2 hours, and you have a 15-minute, very simple toilet stop.
Mm-hmm.
Toilet stops are always taking at least half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So if you give very short toilet stop, very short Photoshop, then you lose very much time, and you come in late, or you rush the people. The worst experience for guests is to have the feeling they are rushed. Come on, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. We have
Oh
no
yeah.
time, we have no time. We always have to think they're on vacation, so they have the time of their life.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
And they
only
don't want to
time.
have stress.
And they don't want to be stressed, but it's
Yeah.
also very stressful for a guide,
Mm-hmm.
because if the guide needs to hurry them, like chasing horses or so,
Mm-hmm.
then the guide comes into the wrong perception of the guest. The guide seems to be unorganized, the guide seems to
Yeah.
be not in control, and that's one of the worst experiences. And that is definitely why this review team is so important. And I would say, keep your promise.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you promise to your guest: fabulous vacation. Make sure that they get that vacation and have time in between just to relax. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, even things you don't first of all think about how
Mhm.
how does the tour guide, for example, feel in that moment? Yeah, rushing people. I mean,
Terrible.
that's not something that he would or she would like to do. I mean,
No, no.
so I think this is a very interesting thing. And what do you think regarding the review team? What
Mhm.
is the most important task?
The most important task from the review team is to listen, and to
Hmm.
listen very, very carefully, because people always want to be nice. Most of
Yeah.
the people want to be kind. They don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but listen very, very carefully to them, because feedback is, to me, a real luxury,
Mm.
and especially feedback that is a little bit harder to take. And if people give you feedback, they are trusting you. Otherwise, they
Mm.
would say, like, I don't care, next time I book with somebody else. And the listening function has a kind of a ripple effect. If
Mm.
you throw a stone into the water, it makes circles and more circles and more
Mm.
circles. So if you listen very carefully, summarize again what the whole feedback is, and read between the lines, then you feel what people say, see, and want to do. And the feeling of the people is what you need to capture to really make your product better.
Mm.
That's for me the most important task, to really listen in
Yeah.
all languages, different
Yeah.
languages.
I believe. I mean, this. I think it's very important, even not to take these things too personally. Like,
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
yeah, what does that person, let's call it the person, tell me here? I did everything perfectly. I think it's
Mhm.
just to be open-minded to other expectations or feelings, and going on professionally,
Yeah.
going on with these information, because well, this is things you can improve with, and well, in the end, this
Mhm.
improvement, this leads me more or less to the next question.
Yeah.
How can, for example, a tour operator improve tours based on the reviews?
I give you an example. I have 30 years plus experience in the tourism business, and I am really enjoying tour guiding, because I'm with the people, I feel the people. And I always do my very, very best, and I know all of my colleagues do their very best. Everybody has his or her strengths, but it's very, very important. And if you hear feedback from guests and you dare to listen to it, when I did the worst ever tour in my entire life was in Spain and Portugal. And I love Spain and Portugal. I jumped on that tour. I got it out of the blue and I was so happy. And then we were in Barcelona, a city I really love. And we were there, and I was hurrying the people because this whole tour was jam packed with activities. It was too full. We had traffic jams everywhere. It was raining cats and dogs. And it was really a difficult tour, but mostly because it was too fully packed. And there was a very lovely lady, and she was standing in a kiosk where she was buying a book about Barcelona. And I said, come on, whoever. And I said, come on, we really have to go. What are you doing? And she said, well, I'm buying a book about Barcelona, so I know where I am. And then I was like, oops, this
Uh-huh.
is very bad. I'm never going to work like this anymore. I'm not going to rush people. She comes from all over the United States to Barcelona to buy a book in Barcelona to see where
Uh-huh.
she is, because we don't have time. That was so bad. And I think if you take in tour guides, that dare to say, like, listen, this is such a packed program. This is so busy. Nothing can happen. No traffic jam, no 10 minutes longer at the toilet,
Mm.
no dwelling on a kiosk. Then you have a wrong tour. Then the tour is not what people want to buy. And if the guests would give that feedback to the tour operator, if the tour guide is asked about it, and if they are coming to see and step in the shoes of the guests, run that tour with that group of guests, then they can improve very much because they better understand the tour.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's also one thing that I want to say to that, because I worked in this very beautiful hotel chain of Utgers. The Utger hotels are really, really very beautiful collection. And we suggested to step in the guests' shoes. And while I was consulting there, I said, why don't we invite all the employees to sleep one night in a weekend and be served as a guest in the hotel, to ensure that they feel what it means to be in this hotel as a guest. It was a very big success. So really listening and coming on the tour yourself as a tour operator or a business developer, see where it can easily go wrong. Theoretically, it may work, but practically it may not work at all. And that's where they can really optimize the tours, I think.
Yeah. So you have been talking about listen to the guests, listen to the staff. Do all tour operators know how to listen to guests and stuff, or what do you think?
I think that every tour operator says, yes, I do listen. I know how to listen. And I think they do know how to listen. But what they forget then is how to act on it. Are they really acting on it? Are they really changing? Do they give the tour guide the opportunity to learn on the feedback? And if they say, what I have experienced, and you can check anywhere in Google on negative feedback, there is very many huge platforms, and I'm not going to mention names because you can find all of them in the what do we do with negative feedback.
Yeah.
About 70% will give you an answer. We cannot place this feedback as it doesn't comply with our guidelines. That is only listening to half of the problem. You want to if you only want to listen to positive, then you are not honest. When I work with people and there is conflicts on tours, I do a very simple thing mostly. I just hold up something and I ask somebody, can you read factually what is said here? Then they read, and I will read on this side. And then I say, so you think you're right? And you say yes. And I say, I don't think you're right because I see something else. And so I turn it around, if this makes sense. And I say, everybody can only know like 50, 52, 54% of the issue. And so if a tour operator really dares to listen, it's much more than that he doesn't know how to listen, but that he really dares to listen to what people say, then he can make the best out of it, because then he has his positive feedback and say like, wow, this tour in Barcelona or in Bishkek in Kyrgyzstan or in Samarkand is Mongolia, fantastic. But this is not good. This part was not good. The beds were uncomfortable, the room was too small, or the food was too greasy, whatever. If they listen to that, then they can change it. And then they can really coach the staff to make sure that they look at especially these points that people normally tend to be not so happy with.
That's interesting. And what do you think? Is there kind of a training like that? Like what the tour operators should do, for example?
Well, I have plenty of feedback sheets for myself, and one of the complaints I had recently in December is that I didn't like this tour because last year it was snowing during Christmas and now it's raining during Christmas. So I can only rate this like average.
Really? Okay. That's
That
kind of
has nothing to do with the tour operator, has nothing to do with the quality of service, nothing to do with the whole tour itself. It's just winter. And
yeah.
if you're coming from the tropics and you travel to places like Europe or Central Asia, or I don't know, in December, you know it's going to be different
Mm-hmm.
weather than tropical weather. And so that is what I call quantitative feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And qualitative feedback is really on the tour didn't run well, the tour guide was nasty, she wasn't available whatsoever. So the tour operator can then shift this feedback to quality feedback that is usable for improving tours, and quantitative just drop it away,
Mm-hmm.
because complaints about rain and weather and that kind of stuff, traffic jams, that's out of everybody's hands. We can also not complain about corona or COVID-19. Everybody is unhappy about it, but complaining about it doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely not.
So I would also say, like, definitely the tour operator could use quality and quantitative quantity feedback, and just throw away the quantity feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I meant as well, is there kind of a review-based training, for example?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about the review-based training. I like this expression. I came up with it once in a discussion with a tour operator, and I said, well, actually it was a very big tour operator, a very big market platform, and he says after 3 times, when the feedbacks on certain tour guides they do lots of city guides, short walks, half days. And he said, if I get 3 times a below average feedback from a guide, I don't hire that guide anymore. And I think that is sad, because I think that would be a fault that the company makes rather than the guide. Because if you start in a new job, for example, very many tour guides are not really trained. They do not get the philosophy of the tour. They don't understand why they have to be at 10 o'clock in the morning at a certain point when it's a photographer's tour, because the sun is shining. And if they don't know, then then the company should tell them. And I also think if you are in a regular job, let's say in an office job, then you have a training on the job, and in the beginning you make mistakes, you will ask a lot. And why then, if a tour guide is delivering your promise to the guests, and the guest is the most important, that's the one who pays you, they see an untrained person who is delivering your product, then after 2 or 3 times, the guide is getting a little bit of a grips of, this is what is expected from me. I think if you as a tour company say after 3 times we dismiss you and this is it, and we take a new one, you start all the time again. If you see that the tour guide is not so good in delivering on a certain topic, then why not take that tour guide and say, like, hey, the guests are really happy with you, they really like you, but I get some kind of negative hints towards topic X. We have a training for you that you can do online, and we have trainings. We offer this kind of trainings as East Guides West, very hands-on from our experiences. All our team is tour guides as well. And then say, like, why don't you take this? Tell me what you learn, and you do your tours again. I expect you to improve. I expect to see improvement without you asking for excellent or so feedback. And then the guide is having a chance and can get committed because he feels the tour operator likes me. He is investing in me. He looks at what I'm doing, and he tries to tell me how I'm doing the best job for him. So I think a second chance, or not even a second chance, a real chance is much better.
Yeah, I believe absolutely the same. So in the end, what you say is what a tour operator in this kind of way should do. Not just getting, it's the same like listen. Maybe this tour guide has an idea or a complete wrong
Exactly.
understanding of what he
Yeah.
should sell,
Yeah.
maybe from a prospect of whatever. So maybe this is kind of a feedback between the two of them. So
Yeah. Yeah.
would you say most important thing in general for tour operators, what they should do is listen in general, listen to the reviews, listen to the employees, getting all information together,
Yeah.
and kind of having a brainstorming together, like what can we do and so on.
And go on the tour themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Take the tour themselves. If they apply somebody to go on the tour, I have worked for a long time, also for hotel chains and so on. And I insisted I want to stay in the hotel to see where the problems are in the value chain.
Yeah.
And for example, I give you an experience in Central Asia. Central Asia is known for beautiful lakes, very beautiful nature.
Mm.
And we were going to go to a lake. And we didn't understand exactly where we went, but we didn't care. They have the program, the guide knows, this is the way people go on
Of course,
vacation.
yeah.
So that's what everybody
Bring
does.
me
So
there.
you believe, okay, bring me there and I'll see what happens and it will be good. And then you are in a car for 8 hours. And then you see a lake, and then you go back for 8 hours on a 10-day trip. And then you wonder like, hey, and that's, I spoke with the tour operator. I said, these people, they come 10 days. They sit 2 days in the car, full days, to see a lake, which they also could go and see in Switzerland.
Yeah.
So you have to offer something else to see a lake that is spectacularly beautiful, but to sit 2 of your full 10 days in the car to just see it without picnic, without anything, that's not the right way. And I also remember that a colleague of mine said once, Sjannie, do you understand? Our tour operator is expecting us to deliver between 90 and 100% expectation. And if we don't do that, then they may say, we don't choose you anymore. And she said, but they've never told me what they exactly expect. Did they tell you? I said, no. I just think this is what they expect me to do. And so this is the perception of the staff, the perception of the guest, and the perception of the tour operators. 3 total different things. So, and I think if the tour operator would then say, take a training on how to deliver an amazing tour, for example, then the guide understands and they can better understand where the problems are on the tour and rather than in the office, because that's a different issue. So yeah, that's more or less what I think is
Yeah.
review-based training, to give them really how to deliver, how to do this, plan your day, day-to-day leading, that kind of exercise. Yeah.
That's kind of interesting, in the end, understandable, of course, as well. Because if you think about it, it's kind of logical, but sometimes you need to be pointed to that direction.
Yes.
So this is absolutely great information. But now let's talk a bit about increasing the revenue. How do you think this revenue can be increased by improving the feedback loop?
It's all about expectations of the guest, the promise you make. You see everywhere these words like, we go to see this magnificent whatever, and we have stunning views and beautiful words to describe the tours. So the bigger the words, the higher the expectations.
Of course.
Then you also have people that have an attitude of been there, done that, just ticking off a little bit, like, if I may say, arrogant travelers, and the guest that is doing a once of a lifetime trip. has been saving to for years for this trip, and then they come and they are standing in awe all time, and they're screaming whoa and whoa the whole time, which is also a little bit different. And I think trust sells. And if you have a very good feeling of the guest and your tour, and you feel like what you're doing is valued by the guest, and your tour guide knows these two opposites, like the been there, done that, and the ha ha person, then they can see like, okay, this tour guide really has a profession. Sometimes for a tour guide, it's actually good when something bad happens, because then the guests see this tour guide working. They see this, she or he's in control. He knows how to take care of the rest of the group if somebody has an accident or something like that. And this kind of crisis management is very important. If you have the guests valued in their expectations, if you hear the voice of the guest, if you have also good suppliers, the bus drivers, the bus is clean, the driver doesn't drive too fast or too slow, or isn't smoking behind the wheel in certain countries still available. And this kind of things gives the guest a feeling of, I am valued. They see this is my vacation. I paid for this dream vacation. This is my dream. And it's kind of a important thing. On the other hand, also, if the tour operator, which is often happening on market platforms, especially the bigger market platforms, they have feedbacks, they get them in, they put up the positive ones, take out most of the negative ones, and put in only a few that are a little bit like, could have been better on this point or that point. I think that is not really answering the need of the guest. It's not trustworthy when everybody says only positive things. And it's also cultural. In the Netherlands, if you have, as I said, I'm from the Netherlands, if a teacher was giving you a kind of a 7 or an 8 when you're young, and there's another teacher gives you everybody a 9, then you want that 7 from that one teacher that is so hard to give you good notes, because that 7 means a lot more than the 9 of everybody saying it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so I think this is when people see like, okay, you listen to the positive things, but you're also listening to the more constructive feedback, I'd rather like to call it, and then act on it, then it sells. And I would like to give you a very nice example here, because I have many friends, they work for a very nice tour operator in the United States. I want to name them, they are called Tauk. And they have tours that they set up, new tours. They do not even mention where they are going, and the guests are booking this.
Oh, really?
Because they trust them so much that they pay thousands of dollars to go to a tour that is like announced, a new tour. You can sign up now, only so many people. I don't know exactly how it works, but the people trust them so much, and they are so loyal to this company.
Great.
That they just pay thousands of dollars, and they think like, okay, I'm going to sit in the plane, in the flight, in the car, in the bus, wherever they drive me, it will be good.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. And I just really love that. And if you have that power, I think you can really increase your revenue.
Oh yeah, I believe. I mean, this is an example, absolutely stunning. I mean, how can you get people really to pay a certain amount of money for not knowing what they get?
Yeah,
This
and
is
they
you
are
really,
they are at the top of the market, and
yeah.
their guests, they are loyal guests, and
Mm,
if you are having, if you listen to your guest and you try to answer their needs and
mm,
what everybody says exceed expectations, the
mm,
next sentence normally is like under promise and over deliver.
mhm,
That's all fine. But if you know what the expectations are because you really have been listening, then after a while, not of course after the second tour,
of
but
course.
after a while, you can do this kind of experiment. Hey, listen, we are planning a new tour. It's fantastic. If you are in for an adventure, sign up here, pay $7,000
Mm,
and more, and
yeah,
they just fill it up in a half a day or in a week or something like that.
yeah,
That's trust, and that's how you increase your feedback loop. And I think
that's perfect.
that's fantastic. And how
Absolutely.
many percent I can't say, but if
Yeah,
you can do it, just think about where your goal is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this with these customers, for example, you have really kind of a great communication. I
Mm-hmm.
think because when
Mm-hmm.
you ask them for feedback, they will
Mm-hmm.
be honest. And I
Yeah.
think maybe I don't know what you think. Maybe you can tell a little bit more about this part. They won't have fear to tell you what they didn't like, for example. Maybe what do
No,
you think?
because if you look at friends or family or your partner, it's the same. If you have good friends, they are sometimes better than your partner because maybe you ask your partner, "What do you think about my Corona hairdo?" And he says,
Hmm.
like, "Oh, it's okay," because he doesn't want to hurt your feelings and he wants to be nice. But friends say, "You really look horrible." And
Hmm.
you know it yourself. You actually know more or less, like, okay, I should go to the hairdresser, but they
Yeah,
don't. They're not available.
of course.
And so if you are treated like friends in this kind of example, you can really say like, okay, a friend is honest to you because they trust that you say this
Hmm.
in the intent to help them forward. And that is the most important thing. So if you are not just seeing dollar signs or euro signs when you get feedback from your guests, and this when I do the reviews on these topics, then I see many people, they are trying to drive numbers in bookings,
Mm.
but it is much easier to keep a happy guest with you than to get a new guest again. And
Mm.
so I think to keep these people in the loop, listen again carefully to them, value their opinion, and of course, you don't want to be screamed at reasonable people. But if people really mean well with you, they give you fantastic feedback. They give you, and that's why I say it's gold. They give you revenue because they will tell your friend, okay, I was not happy about that. This is what company XYZ did for me. And it's definitely not always money. Because I give you another example from an airline, a Chinese airline, where I was in customer service doing a big project, and they lost a 12-year-old unaccompanied minor on his way from Beijing via Hong Kong to Amsterdam.
Oi.
Yes, an unaccompanied minor with a passport in his little pocket, which the stewardess should take care of. This boy was on an international school, spoke well English, and he was lost in Hong Kong. He
Yeah.
came, we still don't know how, from Hong Kong to Zurich and from Zurich to Amsterdam, and his grandma picked him up. The father, when he heard this story, I could keep the phone here. I could hear him scream from Beijing to Amsterdam,
I believe.
and he was so extremely angry that after a while, when he calmed down, I said, well, I have to think about this. I am not sure what we can do. Of course, the passport, which was gone lost, had been reimbursed and so on. That was all good. So my boss said to me, Sjannie, why don't you offer them a first class ticket for the whole family wherever they want to go? Now, this company is a big company that is, the family was expatriated to China. They're not interested in free tickets. They fly enough. They are in the plane all their life. So I decided against that without my boss telling him that I was going to do that. And the value of offer I could give was about 15,000 euros for the family of 4. And when the father came to phone me again, I told him, listen, we have never had this. We traced the whole track. We don't know how he got lost. The stewardess had said he went to the toilet and then he went into a gadget shop. Everything fine. It shouldn't have happened. I said, tell me what you want us to do for a solution. And he said, oh, okay, I will think about it. So he said, I will call you back in the next days, which he did. And they asked this 12-year-old boy, what is for you a good solution to make this good again? And so I was like, I hope it's going to be good. And you know what he said? He said, my son wants to have airplane models from your company in all sizes.
Oh, really?
Really, and we gave him also from the low cost company.
Yeah,
we gave him like 8 or 10 airplane models, and they were happy as can be. Instead of 15,000 euros, we just gave him 8 or 10, I don't know, airplane models for the boy to be happy, and that was the answer, because we asked them, what is the solution? And that is, I think, these people, they talk still about it like me. I'm still talking about it. And that increases your revenue, because that's the solution.
This is absolutely special. I mean, that this happens, of course, well, everybody's only human, but such a solution is well, I don't have words to tell about that, because I think it's so cool. Really, there's no other word for that.
Yeah, it's just listen, and then they trust you. You do what they ask for, and of course we paid the lost passport and stuff like that.
Of course, I think that's absolutely clear.
Mm.
Yeah, but let's go back to the feedback itself.
Yeah.
Maybe let's think about some kind of feedback forms, for example. I know you've prepared something about why feedback is important at all.
Well, I would like to ask the audience, I don't know, I can see we only have 10 active participants, is that correct?
Yeah, that's good.
Maybe we can ask you to put in your chat quickly 1 or 2 words why you would think feedback is important, and how you could train your suppliers, your tour guides, anybody. What would help you for feedback? Because if you listen carefully, you can use these words in the feedback sheets and direct your tour guides also in the tours towards this kind of feelings, emotions, expectations. Maybe there's some participants that show up and can say.
Yeah, you can see the chat box in the lower part of your screen now. If you move your mouse over, you see that in there. So just write the word or the 2 words or the sentence, whatever, in, and have real life information.
Do we have somebody? Sorry.
Yeah. There we have.
Hey, Sally. Hi.
So let's see.
Reviews. Okay. Because in the meantime, when people start writing up, we all, of course, depend on excellent feedbacks today, especially now in this time when travel is going to change completely. We will have a totally different travel industry after we are out of the lockdown. Long haul travel will take a long time to the longest time. We were the first hit, and we will be the last ones to come out, because we don't know when people trust themselves again to travel overseas. We don't know which borders and which air regulations are going to happen. If somebody needs to go two weeks into quarantine before they go on vacation, well, that's not an option to anybody, I think. So I think if you ask like the quality reviews, if you have structured information, you get feedback like the program is too full, the pacing of the day is not good, it's too busy, the tour guide is stressed all the time, or the tour guide is all the time sitting at the bar and I don't know, is not available for my questions. Then these things you can take in your feedback sheet and you say like, okay, itinerary too full, pacing of the day, availability of the tour guide. You can ask a question, was your tour guide available, yes or no? And you can ask like, how did the tour guide behave? At some tour operators, they say you have to eat with the guests at all time. Other tour operators say you're not allowed to eat with with your guests at all time. So you're not allowed to drink, you are allowed to drink for social gatherings and so on. All these things are different in each company. And so this service delivery must be understood by the tour guide. It must also be known by the guests that this is your style of travel. You're more like a little bit on a distance, or you're a very close friend. And this can be rooted into your feedback sheet in your form. And then you get performance indicators that are telling your guide, okay, our company philosophy is you socialize a lot with the guests. You are expected to have a drink with them at the bar, or you are not expected. So after bar time, you are not allowed to be at the bar. So these are performance indicators. And if they are in the feedback sheets, then the value of the tour guides or of the forms are much higher as well. So let me see, what do we get? Oh, the chats are left.
Yep.
Hi, Marina. This is Marina. Feedback helps to find out and analyze weak points of the tour's service. Finally, chance to improve and make sure to get great feedbacks. Exactly. This is what it's all about, to listen carefully, and not only the weak points, but also to highlight the strong points. So it's like focus on the talents of the positive points in the tour, and make sure that people can enjoy it in a little bit longer or a little bit different time. And so try not to overdo it, but do a little bit more of the plus points. And yes, talk about the weak points and see how they will be eliminated. Very good. Thank you very much, Marina. And Sally asked, to collect and send them to me. Many still don't understand the value. I constantly have to remind them. I'm talking about online exposure on web platforms as ours. Most of them do not ask clients to send reviews. There is a very big thing, Sally, that I always feel that is a very big point. There are 3 ways of giving feedback. If the guide knows that people are not going to give feedback, then the guide can maybe talk to them one-on-one in a social moment and say like, I see you like this very much. Why do you like this so much? And when they see somebody's not so engaged, ask them, is this not your type of activity? Are you tired? Because that's also possible. Something like that. And then have the guide write this kind of feedback down as a soft feedback directly face-to-face, without asking for fantastic feedback, because if you do that, then feedback is no longer valid, actually. That would be one thing. And then let me see the rest. of the question, I think it's something cultural from Central Asia, absolutely. I think feedback sheets are very, very cultural. If we look at the market platforms, they are mostly Anglo-Saxon located, so very often United States. The United States is giving 9s and 10s all the time because that's their way of thinking. As I said already before, in the Netherlands, for example, we have a very low context country and communication like the United States. But if it's not measurable, like mathematics, they say nobody can get a 10 out of 10, 10 is the best. Because nobody's perfect. So if you get an 8, that's very good. In many feedback forms, and especially also the person I was thinking of before when I said like after 3 times we say bye-bye, this was a South Pacific based company with American roots, and they say after 3 times it's out. But if you do that, then exactly the culture comes around the corner, because an 8 for a service in, for example, Central Asia is probably very high. In the Netherlands is very high. In the United States, not good enough. So this is definitely something that people have to get used to. And that's why I think the softer way to get information from your guests is by training your guide to listen to the guest in a certain way and to say like, okay, I see that activity X never gets such a kind of an atmosphere that we would like or hope from it. But if we do this, and let me say something very Asian, like we make plof together, which is the rice dish, which is very nice, and it's very typical. Then you see everybody really like, oh, they're working and they're enjoying it. And the guide can even take like pictures of it, like, wow, everybody is engaged, or everybody's like this, or looking at their phone, or they're distracted. This is also feedback. And that feedback is much more in Central Asia. I agree to that, Sauli. Thanks for that question. It's very, very important. And then there's a last question argument in your question that I use, that after the virus, there will be more competition and you have to step up. It will, I noticed that it will work. Yeah, because this is also something that tour operators here now say, like, there is millions of tour guides out there without a job from day one of COVID-19 till now. Everybody knows that the tour guides are out of work for definitely, if they're not working local, for probably the whole of the year. And then less people are needed maybe next year for long haul. And I think that it's true that if a tour operator says, like, if the tour guide has now taken the time to develop themselves, take training, e-courses, and yes, I say East Guys West has e-courses, so check them out, but take them, then they see, okay, somebody is very serious about his or her job. They have taken the time to develop themselves, to learn more, whether it's by these webinars, whether it's by taking an e-course, by training themselves in English, something like that, language, German, whatever. And then I understand those tour operators that will say, I would take these tour guides rather than the ones that have been sitting at home. And as someone said, I've been a couch potato for a few weeks. I'd rather take the one that developed themselves. Then Sergey, hello, how are you? It's Sergey from St. Petersburg. We have a slightly different way of handling this. We are interested in detailed feedbacks, but it's our partners who are collecting feedbacks from their clients when those are back, inviting them for a tea party or dinner. Yeah, this also, yeah, I know this system also. And it's then we get a detailed structured feedback prepared by a peer professional under this help to improve. I take from this part, I know this also, Sergey, very nice to see you here. And I notice also that there is tour operators that have information evenings. And when they sell the tour for the next year again, they invite future guests, and they invite some very enthusiastic guests from who have experienced the tour already.
Yeah.
And this is also a very good way to gather feedback. I think this is maybe one of the ones that I forgot, but it's a very good way, because then guests are asking guests and you are listening, and you see how they sell your tour.
Mm-hmm.
And this is very good. Second part, Sergey, I have to read. Do not ask on site, giving clients time to wait. So how they want to share their experience right away. Well, yeah, I also think, like, I personally am also like this. I always tell my guests, don't fill it in immediately. Wait, like when you're working with your pictures. Yes, you're putting your pictures in a kind of a book and so on, and then let me know when you look back at the tour, how was it? Because if you have a multi-day tour, then what people do remember is the last few days. If you're 14 days, 19 days on a tour with people, they don't know what they did on the first day, but they do remember the very bad food on the last day, or the plane that was delayed, and you can't help it. So indeed, I also say always, I prefer people get back home, get over the jet lag, sit down, look at the pictures, talk to friends, and then give the feedback. Because then you get really like, wow, this was a nice moment. I really like this. And yeah, that was okay. It's not so much mine, but it's a group travel. So yes, thank you very much, Sergey. I like these suggestions very much as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any other questions at the moment? Just for you to know, you can as well talk to us here. This is all fine. You find next to your chat button on the lower part of your screen, you'll find raise your hand, and I will let you talk here. That's all fine. We're happy to hear from you, Sjannie. So I think these are very, very interesting information at the moment. What all can be kind of a feedback? I mean, if you see, for example, this is just a thought from my side here, from my perspective. If you see people, for example, with their mobiles on the tours, taking selfies, and you see them posting them, I mean,
Yeah.
can be a great feedback as well, of course, because why should they post anything with a smiley face if they just don't like it? So maybe for the social media, depending on where you are and which social media are used, for example, maybe it makes sense as well to have kind of a hashtag that's unique for you, for example, and tell the people, hey, if you take beautiful pictures, hey, use the hashtag or tag us inside there, for example. And I think this could maybe be something that could be used as a review as well, to see which places, for example, or which activities have been the ones that they posted most, that they wanted to share the most with the world.
Yeah. I think that's very important, and there's also a very nice thing if you go back to the positive feedback and the hashtags and the Facebook. When I research this topic, I really see, like, okay, in Facebook you see the lives people like to live, and they like to show, this is how fantastic my life is. In Google, they know exactly what are the downsides of your life. The first three things people look for is, I hate my boss, I want to get rid of my husband or my wife, and I have no money. So if you compare Facebook here, everybody's smiling, having wonderful times, the best love of their life, whatever. And here they say, like, I want to get rid of this love, and I want to get more money, and my boss is also not nice. So it's all relative. And so that's what I think is the most important to, of course, share. And East Guides West is also living on feedback. So please give us honest feedback on our website, on our Facebook, if you wish. We love that too. And as I say, really honest feedback. Constructive when it's the rain is falling down, then that's not necessary to tell me. I can see.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what we like. And yeah, I don't know if there's anything else I can say. I think really with feedback and the way you take different feedbacks in, that is the best way to get more revenue and really listen to your own company, how it works. Because if your guests and your guides, especially in this period, there are companies that are dropping their guides like hot potatoes. These guides are going to talk about you in a very bad way.
Mm-hmm.
But those guides that work for companies that have a social event happening, like for example, tonight for the company I work for, we have a drink because we miss each other and it's organized by the company. Then you say like, wow, this is the company I want to stay with.
Yeah.
And that's also feedback that the company also needs to get you committed to them and reel you in. Yeah, and this is more or less
Yeah.
what I
Thank
can
you.
say.
Thank you so much. This had been very interesting information.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving you a feedback right away. It was a pleasure, like always, when we were talking.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I really enjoy that. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I believe this had been very, very helpful for everybody watching, because
Mm-hmm.
as I already mentioned before, sometimes you know the things, but you don't really think about it. Sometimes you just need to see a little or need somebody to really get you to the point again, to tell you, hey, and this is what you know, act like that, or use it like you should, for example. So when you have any questions, any further questions, feel free to contact East Guides West, for example, on the BUZZ.travel platform. This is always your opportunity to do, because if I just may mention that very quickly, we want to connect people. This is very important at the moment. This is the way we both met as well. You can register at the moment. It's free of charge. All premium features in. You can use our whole network. Feel free to join us, BUZZ.travel. You will find all information about it. And of course, you'll find Sjannie as well.
Yeah. Also, I want to say, if I may interrupt, we have this connection tool where we want to connect tour operators with the tour guides and do a job market. But since the job market is not there yet, we have a GoFundMe project for Adopt an Amazing Tour Guide, because most of the tour guides, especially in the underrated, undervalued countries, they have no way to get money from the government. So we have an action we started this week, the action GoFundMe Adopt an Amazing Tour Guide. We try to raise 150,000 euros for the guides, so that we can really help people that fell in between the cracks. And if you can share that link, that's the way we can connect now.
Absolutely. Share that link on the newsfeed on BUZZ.travel as well.
I will.
I'm happy to share. I'm happy to like.
Okay.
All of that. I can just say thumb up. Really, really great idea.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time, for your information. And I think we will talk later on as well. And again. Yeah?
Thanks for all the listeners. Thanks for being here. Thank you very much.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.